thank DU for letting us do this here, and I want to thank Free and Equal Elections for live streaming this on Facebook. My name is Corey Hutchins. I am a journalist for the Colorado Independent nonprofit newsroom based out of Denver. And I agreed to do this debate because I think this election year is kind of a strange one. And I think voters, especially in a state like Colorado, where we have more than 1 million voters here, decide not to choose a party, to be unaffiliated, that this year might be one where folks are looking perhaps elsewhere than the major parties for candidates. We have a few on some of the top line ballots. So in the United States Senate race, the Democrat is Michael Bennet, he's the incumbent. The Republican is Darrell Glenn, who's an El Paso County Commissioner. There is a Unity Party candidate named Bill Hammonds who's on the ballot. There's like a handful of unaffiliated candidates also. Green Party candidate, Arn Menconi, and Libertarian Party candidate, Lily Tang Williams. So if you guys, I'll tell you a little bit about how we'll moderate this. We'll do opening remarks, do 5 minutes apiece. You can keep it at that. 3. Hey, if you can do 3, we'll see if I believe it.
We can do it.
And then I'll do some joint questions that I have, and then we'll do some individual questions. And if you guys, one of you guys feels called out by the other one, you feel free to have a rebuttal. And then I'll do some individual questions, as I said, and then we'll do some audience questions. So if any of you guys have any, please feel free to come up to this microphone. We'll turn that on, and we'll do that. And hopefully we can keep that to about an hour and a half. So go ahead and whoever wants to start. Arn, you want to do your opening remarks? Willie, you want to do your opening remarks?
What do you want to do, 3 or 5? Whatever you guys figure out.
If you can keep under 3, I can keep under 3.
Okay. Hello everyone, I'm Arn Menconi and I'm very honored and grateful to be here tonight. I just flew in from New York City where I was at the debates 2 nights ago. It was very interesting what's happening in this election. As Corey had pointed out, and thank you Corey for being here and moderating this. This is our 4th one. Thank you Colorado Independent for hosting this, and thank you for Free and Equal Elections for hosting this. This is a historic election. That's why I got into this. I was growing up on the south side of Chicago in 1968, which was a historic election. This goes far beyond this. This is a fight for what people think is democracy. When someone talks about the fact that there is a third party in America or third party choices, and I just got arrested 2 nights ago trying to get open debates with other people, and there was a military system set up that was miles around a debate center and thousands of police officers and who knows what, just so that 2 people could get on stage and represent their corporate sponsors. This isn't a democracy, and this is very much so a historic election. The reason I'm running is because I have children, both 10 and 12, and because I've run a charity for 20 years, and I was a county commissioner for 8 years, and I see what's going on here. America is not sustainable with endless wars, with global warming, with inequality gap, and racial injustice. And since Lily and I was on stage last time a week ago, we have seen 2 black men killed by police brutality. 1 person was charged with a murder, and Americans are witnessing every single day that the system isn't rigged, that it's fixed and working just fine for everyone. So what happens in an election like this is Lily and I, who work wonderfully together, are marginalized. The media doesn't talk about what we're doing, sans Colorado Independent. They let a man who's got $14 million, Michael Bennet, waltz right in, regardless if he won't take a stand on the Trans-Pacific Partnership that would come before us or come before him in a lame duck session, because the system is fixed and it's working just perfectly. So everyone here has to let everyone know that you guys are the choir. You're here because you care. You may disagree with me and agree with Lily, but you agree with that a third-party system has to take hold in America, just like 70% of Americans agree. And we have to show that the state of Colorado will be historic and get a third-party person to come in second or first, past 69 and show that Michael Bennett will not come out and take a stand against the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Thank you.
Either 3 minutes or 5. Good job, Arn. Corey said tonight, you and I should have some fireworks. We should seriously debate each other. That's what he said.
He's a journalist. He's a journalist.
Yeah, he enjoyed that, right?
We like conflict.
No, truly intellectual debate, right? It's up to you to ask these questions.
Where's the empty chair for Michael Bennett?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
8 people on the ballot.
Yeah. So my name is Lily Tang Williams. I am a Libertarian nominee for U.S. Senate. My name will be on the ballot this November. I'm the first, actually, Chinese immigrant from People's Republic of China runs for U.S. Senate. I am a living American dream. Came here with nothing, $100 borrowed, without speaking English, and owe my professor $1,200. I start my own business, I got my degree, I learned English, and I run my own business, and raised 3 beautiful children with my husband, John. The country I came for is called the Constitution Republic. It's called Land of Free, Home of the Brave. I feel threatened as an immigrant, American citizen by choice, by the wrong path this country has been going. I woke up just a few years ago completely and become a free thinker libertarian. Why am I libertarian? Because I want to control my own life, not government, not collective society, not special interest, but I don't want to control your life. It's up to you to control your life, how to live your life, how to raise your children, how to run your business without government interference. That's our ideology. That's libertarianism. I saw that most Americans are libertarian in heart. They want to be left alone. They want to have self-ownership and self-responsibility. Instead, so many Americans today scare me. They're cheering for big government. They want more government. And I had the government enough, 100% tyranny in my life for the first 24 years. So I'm challenging you, discover your libertarian heart, and check me out, lilyforliberty.com, and my Facebook page and Twitter, Lily for Liberty, and find out my journey for freedom. Find out why I'm so scared of big government. Unlimited, unrestricted, think they are super beings, have this power, have this magic to run your life better than you do. I don't buy that. I don't trust them. I had enough of that when I was living in China. That's why I come to this country. I thought I had the constitutional guaranteed rights. So if you want to have so different senator to go to Washington, truly represent you, if you want to somebody you can trust, will never sell out, then lilyforliberty.com, Lily for U.S. Senate. Thank you.
You guys got those down to 3 minutes.
Yes, we're making progress.
So, as I mentioned before, one thing that interests me about what you guys are doing in this election is that, we've seen Gary Johnson, the Libertarian nominee for president. The last poll I saw, he was at like 16%, which was, I think, one of the highest states here in Colorado. Not sure how Jill Stein, I think, was at 6 or 7, but still higher than other states. I think a lot of that might have to do with just the kind of volatile election cycle we've had and who we have at the top of the two candidates. So I'm really interested in, have you ever run for anything as a libertarian before?
Yes, 2 years ago I ran for State House, District 44.
And have you ever run for as a Green Party candidate
No,
before?
I ran as a Democrat for county commission.
Right, I know that. So what I'm curious is after this election's over, and who knows, what's going to happen when the dust settles, are you going to stay part of the Libertarian Party and run again for something else, and try and be that voice for the Libertarian Party? And how do you see that shaping out? You now have 1% of the vote in Colorado. It's getting better. And you, same thing. I know you left the Democratic Party, and are you going to stick with the Green leave the party after this and run for something else, or wait another how many years and run for U.S. Senate? So you guys talk about that. Basically, your roles in your third parties are you going to stick it out?
Rocky Mountain PBS today asked both of the same question. Is this year this passion for third-party candidate looking for options exactly temporary, or it's going to stay here? I believe it's going to stay. I mean, you tell me, according to you guys' judgment, you think it doesn't matter who wins the White House? You think our two-party duopoly system is going to do this country all of a sudden wonderful magic? I don't trust that. They are one party. They're controlled by special interests. They both support corporate welfare. They support big government regulations, and they support endless wars. So I think people are fed up in this country. They're looking for third options. 34% of Colorado independents really want to hear from us, but they're deprived of that opportunity because major press, major debates will not include us. Polling numbers don't even ask me. I got a phone call yesterday to say, Michael Bennett, Darrell Glenn, Michael Bennett. I keep pushing third option, other. Yeah, they're talking to death years. So I will keep running as a libertarian. This is my cause. I want to win as the first libertarian in Colorado, the birthplace of Libertarian Party, to really go to Washington, show those people how to govern for clean, small, limited government, and not for sale, not for special interest. I want to make history. I want the Colorado voters make history. Elect me to Washington.
And you?
Well, the first thing I want to do is announce that I'm endorsing Lily for U.S. Senate, and I'm dropping out of the, no. So I really like him as a reporter, and I want him to have the breaking news story.
You do that for me right now?
I would, if you would promise you'd report it. The question gets asked of a third-party candidate. The way I hear it is, where does your loyalty go? So my loyalty is as an activist. And I thought I was doing that in the Democratic Party, so I can't go back to what I see as a Democratic Party. I was with Josh Fox last night, who made the movie Gasland. And he was a surrogate for Bernie, and he's voting for Hillary Clinton. And we had a debate about it. I just can't go there. I was with Jill 2 days ago, and I'm very supportive of her. I feel as though I got into this race to stop endless wars, help people from not dying, and whatever I have to do. I didn't get into this to be a politician. I got into this to try to win. With 39 days left, having played a lot of sports, it's looking pretty unlikely that I could pull off 5 more touchdowns in the 4th quarter. But if the media comes out and covers that Michael Bennett is not talking about the TPP, his $14 million and these other things, it could open things up. And as you know, there will be mistakes. She'll make mistakes, I'll make mistakes, Michael Bennett will make mistakes. But there's a lack of coverage so that the people in the audience and the people listening are getting informed and finding out who should I be voting for. Jill and Gary, if they had gotten into the debates, would be 20% higher, 10% higher. They're not jumping up in the polls because they're not getting the mainstream media. In Colorado, what I'm noticing in the last couple of weeks are your paper's the only paper that's really covering that there's a Senate race.
The Senate race is being covered, and I do think the media has. It certainly has reported on the TPP.
I get paid, in essence, to look at what Michael Bennett, Darrell Glenn, you, and everyone else is talking about. And I'm in shock. The lack of information outside of, there was a story in your paper recently about Darrell Glenn. And the story about Darrell Glenn is he's nowhere, he's not getting any money, he's not polling. The story about Michael Bennett is he hasn't made a decision about the TPP. This is one of 100 people in the world who make very important decisions, and their voting records are not being covered on a regular basis. And I'm not criticizing you, I'm criticizing the way it's set up. So our job is to go out there and talk about what we think the information is and build upon that and see who cares about what. So for an example is, I didn't jump into this race to be an anti-fracking candidate. I jumped into this race and citizens proved to me that they're prioritizing fracking and 69 and other issues. And my job in the 30 seconds that I get is to make sure I'm talking about those issues.
So there might be a market for what you're both doing. How many debates have you had? How many of these town halls have you done? Have you packed house yet?
This is number 4. So our best attendance was CSU because we had student organizations sponsor it. Do we limit our questions answered to 2 minutes for each? I mean,
Yeah,
I want to make sure.
Yeah.
2 minutes for each question answer,
Sounds
then
good.
rebuttal 1 minute, okay? Rebuttal.
Whatever you say.
Thank you, Arn. Very cooperative. Yeah. So what
Did I
is
sense tension here?
No, we just want to keep under timely class.
All right, well, I'll move on to the next question then, because this one.
Where were you going with that? You see something here. What do you mean by that?
Oh, that's, is there, if there's a, I wondered if you think there's a market for, people listening to what you have to say, and I wonder if, why, we aren't packing these things out all the time. Why aren't people showing
In one
up?
sentence, the other candidates aren't even talking,
No.
Mhm.
so they have nothing.
Now, it is true that there will only be, from what I understand, one televised debate between the two major party candidates this year, which
Well,
is kind of surprising.
Corey, I was in the debate in Grand Junction and the Club 20 debate. Actually a couple of women here were, with me, people here. We got over 500 attendees. I draw the loudest cheers. The thing is, you were there too, right?
Yes.
So without the statewide televised debate with big audience like that, we are only making still small impact, not big impact. I can debate those two major party candidates any day, anytime, anywhere. Go to 1 million people, I will debate them, but I don't have that opportunity. That tells you our election system is rigged. And the pollings don't ask me, don't ask you. I mean, I got 2 phone calls on my landlines already about US Senate candidates race. Our names were not there, So we have to do this. Partially, we don't have good turnouts because we have very limited time. Every time when we arrange a space, get a place to promote it, it's like 5 days left. So that's tough, right? I want to challenge them October 11th. Get on into that state televised debate. But they said you have to poll at 10%. And I said, well, if you don't give me equal press coverage, you don't give me time to be there, how can I even be in the polls polling that high? I mean, it's like a chicken eggs issue,
Right. Okay, so we're going to use our imaginations for this next one. I don't know if you can do it in 3 minutes, but you can try. You're both from like a lot of people, like many people in Colorado, you're not from here. You moved here. I want to know if you could just think in your libertarian utopia, everything you want, in your Green Party utopia, paint a picture for us of what life is like in Colorado, and just a 12-hour day. If you get everything you want, all your proposals, all your policy positions, and everything you get.
Okay, Arn, you go ahead first. You have magic wand to make a green state for Colorado. What would you want?
Well, a U.S. senator is, in essence, not just representing the state. They're making decisions that are international, global, national, and statewide. So I would say that where the state was headed in the 70s with Dick Lamb had some very interesting principles that, had they been executed and gone forward, would be very interesting. Back before money played such a big role in it. Now the state was energy, but they were trying to move to more environmental issues. In the 80s with Gary Hart, it started to move in the right direction, but then we saw a change to neoliberalism that took over. What we saw in the Reagan administration was money playing such an important role. So in the utopian, there would be public financed elections. There would not be politicians who are backed by oil and gas. There would be not people having to put on the ballot a referendum for universal health care. 69, we would have universal health care. Our second largest, the Colorado economy's second largest driver is tourism. People come to Colorado for the lifestyle, for the mountain. I live in Colorado's backyard, the Western Slope. They go there to fish, they go there to mountain bike, they go to ski, hike, etc. There's a huge industry around that. I worked in that industry for almost 25 years. We would be representing the type of issues of what right now minimum wage, if it had stayed in real dollars from the late 60s, it'd be at $25 an hour. We would have representatives who come around and talk to people. Now, Jeffersonian democracy was always talked about in this localized democracy, where when I was a county commissioner, I would meet people in the grocery store and they would talk to me about their issues, and usually it wasn't very friendly, you know. And Mark Udall, who was our congressman and our U.S. Senator, said it's probably the hardest job to have in politics, because wherever you go, you're representing people and they want to talk to you about it. Well, I found it really fascinating over an 8-year period. It was very bipartisan on the decisions that we needed. On a national level, we need to take the money out of our military-industrial security complex of $1 trillion a year, and we need to reallocate that to usually 3 areas. One would be to some of the things that I talked about. Plus, we should have free colleges, not free college tuition, not rising debt for college students who are leaving. We should have better infrastructure. The other thing we could be doing is possibly giving some of the money back to middle class and lower class people, rather than having the top 1% take it and put it in offshore tax havens.
So that's this world. What's yours look like?
So what is my ideal libertarian state or the country I want to live in? I love that question. It's my imagination or my ideal world. The ideal libertarian world I would like to live in our state or in our country is a government goes back to the constitutional side, and you can put that in your pocket. You do not recognize the government exists. Besides national defense and protect the people's life, liberty, and property, enforce contracts, have a court, have prisons to leave us alone. And we will have a people who respect each other, who love each other, who will help each other through private charities. We will have a robust economical growth, lots of jobs, compete for your talent, for your neighbor, and pay you pretty well, because everybody has incentive to work hard, make something out of your own, start your own business, raise your family, become artist, become reporter, become scientist, any way you want to pursue your dreams without much regulation, light regulation, without corporate interest. Get rid of all corporate warfare and subsidies. Our court will be clean, not corrupt. Our people will have liberty and justice. Doesn't matter which economical class you're from, doesn't matter what your skin color is, doesn't matter what gender, who you love, who you choose to marry, what you choose to smoke in your private bedroom or in social gathering place for adults. And we don't have wars, we have peace. We have trade with other countries. We have honest friendship with our friends all over the world through culture exchange and through engagement. We will learn from each other about their culture, their songs, love their movies, just whatever you want to do. And you're not criminals. I don't have to worry about going out today. I could be stopped. I could be arrested. I break some laws. I even don't know what it is. What kind of country do you want to live in? Does that libertarian country sounds good to you? Does that libertarian world sounds good to you? Low government force, unless you hurt me, you steal my property. Everybody is equal, have equal protection under the law. And everybody has justice served to them, regardless if you're rich, powerful, or political connect or not. Corrupt politicians through out of office, corrupt judges, gone. You will have people who truly care about our communities and serve us instead of they want to control us today. And you have good, clean cops want to be peace officers. And instead we have so much conflict today. So let's work toward that libertarian society. Hope that answered your question.
What did you not like? What did you really not like about that?
Well, I just don't see it as black and white, because I would say when I hear these conversations, I think, well, the premise to me is, are people born good, or do they learn to be good? Is government going to be corrupt, or is corporations going to be corrupt? We know that there's good and evil in the world. We know good and evil is going to exist in both government and going to exist in corporations. We know if we've been raised in the United States that a free market system doesn't work, because we saw what happened after 2008. If we live in the United States, we like public schools, we like fire departments, we like having the environmental protection agency so that we don't have steel mills that pollute our air, et cetera, et cetera. So I think what she's talking about is more naive and idealistic, and what I'm saying is that you do have to have certain laws in effect in order to create checks and balances, and that's not going to be a perfect system, and that system's going to have flaws. But if you take out the power and the money, which is typically why these people are doing what they're doing, politics is a shortcut to power. Politics is a shortcut to power, and the way it's being influenced is by the people who have the most amount of money, dangle it out in front of the people who want the power, and they do whatever they want to do. And it's people like us that say, if we're informed and we're making the right amount of decisions inside of that, we're picking people who are more or less corrupted. But the system is set up for people to rise to the top who are, quite frankly, some version of sociopaths. And they go in and they make decisions that it's okay for endless war, it's okay for global warming. And then the other thing that I have with the time remaining that I would use as a rebuttal, in my ideal Colorado, is the skies are the bluest skies, the most sunniest days. We would have clean energy economy that would use wind and air, that would help fuel jobs for us. That's what people are looking for. And the final 10 seconds is a place where my children could grow up and see sustainability and have more hope, less of watching an empire go into decline.
And what don't you like about that?
Arn, I respect you. I think people like you actually identify the same problems we see as libertarians and we hate. I understand where you come from, but the roots of problem you define is wrong, and the approaches you use is wrong. The roots of problem you hate is not truly a free market economy, free market capitalism. What you hate is a crony capitalism. It's both parties sold us out to their special interests who gave them tons of money to get them reelected. It's not true free market capitalism. Because you hate a crony capitalism, you say corporations are big evils. And we say the root problem is because we keep voting for big government, give them so much power to interfere in everything, in our lives, in our business, in our economy. So they have the power to regulate, to pass bills. Guess who do they pass bills for? Their cronies who contribute to their campaigns. So those problems are created by powerful government. But you want to use government to fix those problems created by them. It's just not going to work. It's not going to be effective. But I understand where you come from. We only disagree on the approaches, but not on the problem symptoms. But the root of the problem is the big, powerful government. We need to get rid of that. Then the lobbyists will pack their bags, go home. They cannot persuade anybody, buy any politician in Washington because their power will be limited by us. The people, they go home. You don't have to participate when the corporations are bad. They don't provide good service to you, don't sell you good products, they violate our environmental protection, don't participate, block at them, don't buy their service, don't buy their products. If that happens, guess what? We have a control. We have better control as grassroots people, as consumers. But if you keep electing big government, they're in bed with a big business. They create a police state. It doesn't matter how beautiful your sky becomes, like in China when I was growing up, you know what, we become slaves already.
So what I can't wait to see is the breakdowns when the ballots come in, and I want to see how many people voted Green Party, how many voted Libertarian in this election. You got to know each other pretty well, I think, the past few weeks. It's interesting that you put this tour on and that you're doing this thing. So what have you found in all the times that you've spoken in public or talked to each other in private that you guys have actually agreed on? Because I think, Libertarians and the Green Party, I don't know, but there might be, a sliver of the Venn diagram there, even though you can have diametrically opposed worldviews. What have you found that you do actually find common ground on? I know it's not Colorado Care. What are a couple of things? I guess you spoke last, go ahead.
Okay. Well, we're going to make a commercial.
Besides the media.
We're gonna make a commercial after we're done here tonight. That'll be out on YouTube, and we'll hope everyone shares. That says that we want people to come out and vote. Number one, we want people to vote. Number two, we want people to vote third party. We want this state to be recognized as a leader in pushing the minority party. Don't call it the third party. And number three, we're coming out and saying we're in favor of stopping the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And that we want our US Senator, who looks like he's walking into the next job, to take a stand before the ballots go out on October 17th against the TPP and ask the media to hold his feet to the fire. So we agree with that. The other thing that we agree on is we're not isolationists about war. We think war should be used when there's imminent threat. And I think that terrorism has just replaced the Cold War. It's just a business for the military-industrial, congressional security media complex. And it's costing my children's children their future. And we agree that all the whistleblowers should be pardoned, that Edward Snowden, that Jeffrey Sterling, that John Kiriakou should be pardoned, that Chelsea Manning should be pardoned, and that Thomas Drake. 5 people, it's a very small club, folks, because we have a president that has indicted more whistleblowers than anyone in the history of our country.
Is that true, by the way? Did you guys talked about that before?
Yeah, we've said that.
The whistleblowers, right?
Yes, yeah.
So,
That was awesome.
okay.
Thanks, Arn. Well said. We do agree on lots of issues, and besides what he mentioned, I think fundamentally we agree our country is in trouble. Our country is corrupted by politicians and corporate, big wealthy political collected in Washington in bed together. We both would like to end corruption in Washington, right? We would like to, I hope you support that, end all corporate subsidies. Not just the fossil fuel, but also wind and solar. Make it feel easy, open for free market competition, develop all kinds of sources of energy, and so people can choose. If everybody loves environment, need market to work. And we also agree on when we go to Washington, we will truly represent the people of Colorado. Our votes are not for sale. My campaign slogan is Lily for Liberty, not for sale. I also pledge to support term limits. I will only serve 2 terms maximum. I also pledge, I'm sure you can support that too, we will not become paid special interest lobbyists. We are doing this for our cause. We're doing this for our children's future. We want to have good country to live in. It's just how do we ensure liberty, justice for all? We disagree on the approaches, and we can have nice conversation to present our case, to convince each other. I'm still hoping someday I'm going to convert actually Arn to be libertarian. You have libertarian actually heart in you. It's just they haven't discovered that yet.
I've heard left-wing libertarian.
Yes.
I've also heard socialist libertarian. I mean, look at what Noam Chomsky attests to. I would say I very much embrace what Noam Chomsky talks about.
Do you have any libertarian history?
Probably, yeah.
Hey, you're a skateboarder.
When I'm getting arrested, I don't like being arrested.
Well, all right. You know what, so now I want to do just some individual questions for you guys, and then we'll
Right.
go back to the joint stuff, and then we'll let the audience weigh in. People are going to ask some questions, right?
Yeah.
All right, good. My favorite policy proposal of yours, you already know what I'm going to ask.
I do.
Body cameras for politicians. You brought this up at the end of the debate, and I thought, wow, that's a pretty funny one-liner. But then when I asked you if you were serious, you said you were serious. And in the last debate, I said, who's going to pay for it? You said the public.
I have investors willing to pay for that.
Oh, all right. So let's drill in on that a little bit.
Okay.
Who wears body cameras? Is it? You just talking about Congress?
Any elected representatives and U.S. senators, not that many of them. If you kept coming together, about 600 of them. If they're winning, I'm sure they're not going to pass the bill. But if we, as grassroots citizens, activate to say, you are running for U.S. Senate, are you waiting to actually be more monitored by us while watching you instead of big brothers watching us? Would you volunteer to wear that body camera? I would. I also find the private investors use free market approach to offer them, wow, this body camera is going to make me tons of money by charging public subscription fee per year to pay for that camera, to monitor. Some people would love to watch their congressman, U.S. senator, what they're doing every day. Of course, there's some private issue, security issues will be exempt, personal bathroom time will be exempt, it can work out. But how do you make them to wear body cameras? It's up to you. I cannot make them. They cannot pass law. Those people love their 80% free time on your dime to negotiate with lobbyists, to negotiate with party leadership, get them reelected. Where are they? When you need them in Washington, they're not accessible. You don't know who they're talking to. You cannot limit all corruption. But by demanding them volunteer to wear body cameras paid by private investors, citizens oversight committees watching them, you actually can find out what they're doing. If they're honest, here's the government tell us, you have nothing to be afraid if we're watching you.
So is it voluntary or not, or would they have to?
Well, how do you make them, they have to wear? They have to pass a bill, right? So citizens can demand them. I don't mind.
You want them to have body cameras on?
Yes, I don't mind to wear one because I will tell you I'm not corrupt. I have nothing to hide. And look, that's what government tell you. They're watching our email, they're watching our social media, they're watching our phone calls. They say, you have nothing to hide, Corey. You don't have to be afraid. That's the same argument.
Dave Eggers wrote a novel called The Circle, in which everything with body cameras. This is a really, I hadn't heard that policy proposal before. Did you come up with it yourself?
I've been thinking about it because I'm so sick and tired of politicians use our time, our money in Washington, only work for themselves.
Nice, all right. Your arrest record.
You're not tossing that question over to me, thank you.
No, I gotta ask about your arrest record. I follow you on all your social media accounts, and it's like you're either getting arrested every day or it's a throwback Thursday from when you got arrested last time. How many times have you been arrested? 4?
Twice.
That's it?
Yeah.
So it's the same picture every time? What were you doing? What happened?
Well, 2 nights ago, I was arrested for a very elegant thing called obstruction of government administration, which I thought was very Orwellian. It's a misdemeanor. There were 25 of us arrested in trying to open the debates for Gary Johnson and for Jill Stein. The first time was in March of 2015 in a Senate hearing that was with John, it was a foreign affairs hearing with John Kerry Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, Ash Carter, and the Joint Chief of Staff at the time, Martin Dempsey. And it was to stand up and tell John Kerry they were supposed to be debating and opening the debate for an authorization for military force, which is part of the Constitution. They still haven't done that. And I got up and I said, the American people are tired of endless wars, killing innocent people, and breeding terrorism. And that one was essentially for disruption of Congress, which that's a charge, yes.
You've talked about what agency should be eliminated. The Libertarian Party, National Libertarian Party platform, I think, calls for basically any agency that's not listed in the Constitution to not exist, right? What do you say to somebody who's worked for the government their whole life? Where are all these people going to go and find jobs? Where are they going to go?
Well, first of all, it's in our platform. I do support it. That's the ideal libertarian society I described to you earlier in my 3 minutes. But how do you get there? Practically, it needs baby steps, right? For example, Department of Education has 4,000 employees, spent $80 billion this year on the education. And what is the result? What is our rate of investment return? Nothing. Testing scores compared with international countries, flat, even behind Canada, who doesn't have Department of Education. Guess what? They take our tax money by force, go through bureaucracy in Washington, and come back. 11 cents come back from Department of Education, require you spend 15 cents to comply with its mandate. It's not working. $100 million, student loan, easy money, jack up the cost of college. I understand you want to go for free college, but look, $100 billion. If you put in any industry, it's going to jack up the prices because that's free money, easy money. That's how market works. I do suggest people read Economics 101 to see how market works, how market responds. Market is not emotional. Market is rational. It's based on supply and demand. So to really be effective and efficient with our money to make a college more affordable, get the federal government, Department of Education, defund it. Get rid of it. Eventually, Reagan trying to do that and never keep his promise. And now the Common Core coming back, track our children, indoctrinate our kids, take away teachers' professional autonomy to teach, joy of teaching our kids, joy of learning. It's a disaster in our classroom today. If you ever have kids, prepare to send them to private school or homeschool, all your kids will be like those little robots in a massive factory reproduction facility, become government workers, corporate employees.
Okay, and on the flip side,
I have a
sure.
minute? Yeah, just on the educational topic, and I used to have this committed to memory when I was a commissioner, but if I'm not mistaken, the #1 rated country in the world for education is Finland. That's a socialist country. And I believe they have free early child care education, and I believe they have free college education. And so the countries that are rated #1 in the world for education are countries that fund public education from 0 to higher education. Those are also countries that are lacking in certain natural resources and are using knowledge-based resources in order to stay ahead for the next economy. We're never going back to a manufacturing industrial economy. We ship that off because free market economies go to wherever cheap labor is and where they can pollute and do other things, a la China. And I was a econ and political science major in college. And if memory serves me correctly from some 30 plus years ago, Adam Smith was not talking about the invisible hand, meaning a total free market economy. There has to be some type of regulations. If you read Marx, there's going to be a certain amount of free market in things. So whatever it is, we're talking about 2016 right now. And in 2016 right now, we are being told that global warming is a real threat by scientists. And we have to shift immediately to a new type of green economy that averts that from happening and pushing that forward. The planet's going to be fine It's the people that are going to be decimated when this takes place.
Can I rebuttal that? I just wanted to remind you, if you read Karl Marx's famous piece, Communist Manifesto, one of the Communist Manifesto they wanted to achieve, one of the goals is to have free public government schools for everyone. Why is that in that book? Think about it. When government control education, you think they just go give you free money, do whatever you want? They control the schools, they control brains, thinking, attitude, behaviors of our children. As parents, we had no rights in China. Once the government offer you free stuff, whatever you want to push them, or you have good intentions or what, once you rely on government to offer you free stuff, what cost? Cost is your freedom. Cost is your future slavery. You have no choice but to comply with their mandates. When you become totally dependent on government, you actually become like their slaves. No longer you are relying on yourself, you don't rely on your family, your community, and your fellow citizens. Even in lots of charity stuff, once we rely on government for food, for housing, we were equally poor in China. And we all were slaves. We even did not know it because they asked us to say thank you every day. Kumbaya government. Thank you, Chairman Mao. Next, read that book. It's not very long. Communist Manifesto. Look at what they're trying to achieve. Lots of things we talk about in this country are already accomplished. Now you understand why I'm afraid. I have seen it before. It happened to us before. I do not want that happen to the country I love, which is America, and happen to my children.
So I just, I started this new feature at the Colorado Independent where every morning I read all the front page headlines. I look at all of the newspaper front pages through the Newseum account, and there's about anywhere between a dozen to 15. And so every morning I'm seeing what's on the front page, and I've been doing that for maybe 2 weeks, and I started to see some really interesting patterns, and one is homelessness is on the front page of the newspaper in different cities and how different cities are dealing with it all over Colorado. There seems to be is there any, I'm just curious, is there anything a U.S. Senator could do and anything you would think you could do as a U.S. Senator in Colorado to deal with homeless issues in communities from the western slopes to the Front Range?
Well, yeah, of course we can. We can reallocate funds in order to help the homeless. Utah, a not so democratic state, is actually building homes. Salt Lake City is building homes for the homeless, and they're doing a great job for that. With that, you could be working with the city of Denver, who has outlawed homelessness, and not make it outlawed for somebody who is indigent, have potential, whatever issues that they're facing, to not be allowed to. I mean, where I live up in Colorado, I know a lot of quote-unquote homeless people who are sleeping in their cars in tents and working up in the mountain, and that's considered being a real cool and hip and rugged individualist. But if you do that in Denver, you end up getting thrown in jail. So this is a chronic issue in our country, poverty. We've got a lot into political theory, but what's happening is the market system wants a certain amount of people who are poor. It works for them. It works for the way they're setting things up. And if we continue to have people like the Koch brothers or the Anschwitz or Big Pharma or Big Agriculture doing what they're doing for our politicians, which is paying them off in order to work for them, we're going to have a massive separation of the rich and poor, and that's why we got to make sure that Michael Bennett does not get reelected.
So the policy proposals that he said are basically housing first, which is where the government pays to house homeless people. That's what's in Utah, Salt Lake City.
Yeah, but it's more than just 2 minutes, because I've been in the housing industry. I grew up watching public housing. We have to move to a new type of area of where we could go for housing for homeless people. But I believe very basically in the Samaritan, as being a good Samaritan, we do not leave people to die in the streets. Well,
libertarians actually are very compassionate people. some misperceptions out there. Libertarians are cold-blooded, but we advocate for small government, but we advocate for private charity. If our country has low taxes, people are not relying on government for charity work that's supposed to be performed by churches, nonprofits, grassroots community organizations, and they don't take money from us to say, welcome to charity now, we take over. Then you tax dollar go to Washington. $1 goes to Washington, come back to the poor people in your own local district, local communities, 10 cents left. Is that efficient use of our money? Don't you think you trust government bureaucrats to provide charity? Or you trust our fellow citizens really care, really have a passion to help people? If my neighbors lose job, I buy them groceries, 100% of the money goes to their mouths, goes to their stomach, they eat the groceries I bought. But then, if you want to rely on government to do it, government grants, government taxes, redistribute wealth, decide who's going to get how much, it's just not efficient, it's not effective. Lots of money get wasted. Power gets abused. Then they decide the winners, losers. Why can't we put our brain together at grassroots level to say, you know what, keep our taxes low, economy is strong. American people I met are the most compassionate, charitable people on earth. Compared with rich Chinese I met, people here love to give. But now because government tax so much, people think, okay, government's going to take care of the poor now and the homeless. But that's not true, because lots of money gets wasted in the process and wasted in the bureaucracy. Actually, by the time it comes to local level, it's not much left. There are bad charities, there are good charities. I would rather trust my money goes to good local private charity to serve the people, or I go to serve myself directly. That's better, a lot better than government mandates.
Did you feel personally attacked?
Well, I ran a charity for 20-some years, and my first job out of college was with Goodwill Industry in Chicago, the largest Goodwill industry in America. And within months, the guy I was working for was indicted for embezzling $1 million and went to 6 years in jail. Charities are not necessarily the answer. And Americans aren't necessarily going to take all of their savings and give it to money. Some people give it to the Clinton Foundation, called Saudi Arabia, and in order for a pay-to-play. So I'm trying to point out that you could say good and bad is in everything, okay? Don't think that one is going to be the cure for the other. There has to be certain checks and balances. There has to be certain laws. Yes, there's too much bureaucracy in certain areas. But if we have the right balance and we don't have money as the incentive, people give to charities, corporations give to charities to look like they're good people. It's called greenwashing in the environmental world. I only needed a minute. Thanks.
All right, I'm just going to do one last question, and we'll do open it up here. And it's because we're in a college that I wanted to feel bad if I didn't. But what is your plan for college affordability and student loans? Student loan debt's a real big problem in the country, and college is getting astronomically unaffordable for a lot of people.
As I talked about earlier, when you have $100 billion easy money from federal government as student loan money, and our young people bought into that concept, oh, easy money, they don't even read the fine print, what they're signing up to. That's the debt you cannot wipe up in bankruptcy court, and that's the debt going to follow you all your life. But then, easy money, and the organizations, everybody trying to preach them to do it. University prices went up. Look at the cost of college now, compared in the past. Without, even after you minus the natural inflation rate, the college cost has gone up 70% since 2000. You got to look at the roots of the problem. That when you don't have actual cost of college, it's artificial money from the government to interfere with free market. The cost goes up. Just like our government's going to give you $100 billion to buy houses, to buy cars. Those people who sell those things say, okay, let's jack up the price. Let's see the money. Get the federal government out of student loan business, and let the private lenders come out to lend at the market rate. And so students will be very careful to take on that loan, to know their obligations, know their terms, and not everybody is fit to go to college. I would suggest that we actually take a college degree in different approaches. There are so many choices besides 4 years college now. You can do 2 years, 3 years vocational training, apprentice programs, online school, learn on your own. I love that. Actually, with the modern international, like internet now, you can learn so much and take classes or go to some classroom settings. There are so many choices, but push for blind 4 years so-called free college is going to actually bankrupt the country. We're not a small European country. And even small European country like Finland has very high taxation. Are you willing to pay 60% of your income to government to run the schools? I mean, I don't think so. Americans will not go that way, will not agree to that.
And and just tell me your take, and then we'll.
Yeah. We're going to have.
Well, I was.
Wait,
We're going to have
let's
a few
people,
minutes.
we're going to have people go to the mic.
So my answer to that is, I went to University of Denver and got my master's in business administration from this university, and I did it through a program through Vail Resorts, and it cost $20,000, which is a steal, right? It cost $85,000 to $100,000 to get a master's degree from this university. It cost $75,000 a year just to go to NYU, one of the great best schools in the United States. So if you're a parent and you're thinking about your child going to a decent university in America today, like me who has a 10 and 11-year-old, I better put away a few $100,000 each because they're going to need a master's degree. And when they're going to come out, they may have a job that's at $60,000 a year by what I've been seeing for the past 30 years. And it's going to take them 30 to 40 years to pay it off. That's not sustainable. That is not what we thought we were doing with the American dream. And then you've got to buy a house or you rent an apartment, which is now about $1,500 a month to $2,000 a month. And then you have to go and buy health insurance at $1,000 a month. That 60% of tax seems really cheap to me all of a sudden. If I'm getting health care, free education, and roads. And by the way, does anyone want to wipe out libraries next? You know, the sacred ground. So I think that the 800,000 people in Colorado, that equals $22 billion in college debt, should be wiped out. And I think there should be free public higher education. There could still be private, of course, but that's what I would fight for.
So anybody who has a question, the mic's on. It's all yours.
Yeah, if you would go ahead and come down and line up at the mic, that would be great.
Yeah, just give me this one.
Okay.
There you go. Here you go.
Okay. Well, I'd like to know whether you think was the GI Bill a good idea for the veterans to be able to go to college, do you think?
Sure.
Do you think if for the low-income families, should they be treated the same way in the center city, that they could decide what's best school for their kids to attend and be given the money so that they could, the money would follow the individual in the same way as it did the veterans after World War II and still does. So wouldn't that be a good idea?
Well, could you ask your full question and then I'll answer all of the questions?
Well, the first one you answered.
I've been interviewed by him, so usually at the very end is the longer question.
Okay. Shouldn't we extend the same thing to particularly starting with if you're going to have the government funding education at where the funds come from, that's a different question. But if you're going to have the government funding education, wouldn't it be better to follow the GI practice of giving it to the student, in this case the parents of the student, and they can decide whether they want to go to the government schools or the private schools or the parochial schools?
I'm mixed on that one because it could get played out in many, many different ways. But fundamentally, I'm saying that we're not broke, we're being lied to, and the money is being spent, or the deregulation is being given to the corporate class.
No, I'm answering my question. Are you in favor of giving it to the...
And I understand, sir. You're saying instead of the school choosing which students should come in, that the money would go to the parents, and the parents would then decide which school.
Right.
And it seems like a little bit of a chicken and egg question to me as I'm hearing it from you. But I think that in systems, I think we would be very astute to model ourselves off of some of the systems that are going on in Europe right now that are having tremendous successes.
I support that. Actually, I support use GI Bill for our veterans' health care, so they don't die of waiting long nights for VA hospital to treat them. Why they cannot use GI Bill, same model for our veterans to take money everywhere they see fit to see their doctors? On education, I would love to see a voucher program. It's still public funding for the poor, but then the money is in the hands of consumers, which are parents. Parents know best about their kids, which school is better for them, and parents love their children more than bureaucrats, more than teachers. So if we give parents a choice and take the money anywhere they see fit, private school, competing public school, charter school, online school, home school, all kinds. You know best for your children. If we can do that, actually we will have more competition in public school education, quality will go up and cost might go down, and our kids might learning something instead of doing 6 weeks common core testing and dumbed down by those so-called state standards, but actually designed by intellectual elites. It's not internationally benchmarked. It's also not very rigorous. It's designed to dumb down our children, one size fits all, centralized education. I had planned to that in China. So I will totally support that bill.
So I want to just follow up because I think I had a little bit of time on that. The reason I didn't want to give a complete answer to the question is because I was afraid it was going to get into a discussion of voucher program. We started with higher education and now we're talking about lower education with voucher programs. Those are two separate issues in my mind. I do not agree with voucher programs for lower education. I think that sets up inequality. I've seen it growing up. I will see it again where I've seen it in the Vail Valley where you have schools that are for the privileged families and the underprivileged families are going and getting less. So I'm against voucher programs.
No, I said for the low income.
Right, but that's why I think this conversation is being listened to in different ways by different people. The way I don't know enough about the GI Bill in order to give an educated answer as to how the GI Bill got played out. What I'm hearing from you is the GI Bill is here's a certain amount of money, go ahead and choose which schools you want to go to if you've served our country. I'm saying in a college setting for people who are coming out of schools and applying to different schools, that the public educational system in America would be free. Harvard, it's a private school. Harvard's endowment program is extraordinarily rich and is paying for people's education. It doesn't necessarily need to be charging students in order to go to school there.
Well, I happen to be a graduate of Princeton, and per capita we have the highest endowment. It cost me, when I went there, I was a waiter and earned $600 for room and board, and I was on scholarship and I got $600 for scholarship, and that's what it cost me to go to Princeton. When the government gets into it, whether it's housing or anything else, isn't it true that the cost is,
You can't.
our opponent is saying always goes up?
I don't know what Corey wants to do with the discussion here, but you can't
I'm
use the
waiting for
word
people to
true.
line
I
up to-
can't.
Please limit your question to 30 seconds.
This is the conversation. Government bad. Don't tax people. It's always corrupt. No, that is not true. It's played out, sometimes bad. It's played out, sometimes good.
If you wouldn't
But
mind
can we-
coming down to the mic stand
I can
and
do that.
asking your questions, anybody who has a question, just come on down and get in line.
That mic should be-
help
Yeah,
us
that
move along.
probably save more time.
Yeah.
Thank you, yeah. But anyway, Arn, don't trust government too much. If you don't like people in the police state, you get arrested.
The government is being controlled by the corporate powers that control the election process, that control the politicians, and that control that. Everybody who has a price, evidently. And
We
they're
don't,
selling
then I don't
out.
have price.
Well, we don't, but I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, and we can't set up a system that everybody's
Well,
going to be
so
perfect.
they're saying
And
so.
so I'm arguing for certain laws, for checks and balances. Government, as a county commissioner, no one knows this better than county commissioners, that people come to them and they want roads and they want them plowed and they want a certain amount of police force and they want a certain amount of health care, and they're willing to pay for that. Whether or not they're conservative or whether or not they're liberal.
Local
Because when they
wrestling
walk
was
out of
great.
that.
Local
So
wrestling was
that
fine.
doesn't play out very easily in a micro-governmental setting, and as you scale it up. But what has happened is in the last 30 to 40 years, our country has been hijacked by the multinational corporations.
You know why?
And we keep
Because of
having,
that?
hold on a
Because
second,
of that?
and we keep, this is what he wants. Let's give it to him. When people get obfuscate is this linear conversation and not a holistic conversation of what is actually being happened when you have global corporations that don't need sovereign powers in order to make as much money as they want. So that free market system allows Apple, the largest company in the world, to do an inverse corporation by putting themselves in Ireland so that they don't have to pay taxes. And it allows Donald Trump to set up a foundation that he doesn't have to give money to and doesn't have to pay taxes to. And 2 days ago, we have to watch those bozos on the debate stage, and those are our two choices, chocolate or vanilla. Choose. Well, the people that have been picking that for the past 20, 30, umpteen years are the corporate powers, the Koch brothers, the Wall Street, Goldman Sachs, and everything. I mean, has anybody gone and watched The Big Short?
But as I said, the root of problem that when you trust government with those powers, you give them those corporation incentive to control and buy them. Remember that
So-
chief politicians are not angels. You and I are angels, but we
Right.
one
No,
of few.
I-
They're most of
trust
them are
me.
not angels. They can abuse the system. So we cannot rely on them.
I am so irreverent that I'm not going to get elected to U.S. Senator. But I will be irreverent enough to say, have you not seen the movie It's a Wonderful Life?
Oh, I
Do you
love
want
that movie.
Potterville? Do you want casinos? Do you want drugs? Do you want pimps and hookers? You know, because that's a certain, do you want to go back to the Chicago of 2011, Upton Sinclair's The Jungle, which you are more or less saying that you grew up in China, and what you're seeing in Russia? I was in the Soviet
Well,
Union in
because exactly
1969.
because I grew up in
My
China,
political
I want my
science
government to be
department.
limited
Yeah.
by its powers.
There are ways to limit government.
Not by the way you
And-
trust them to find more regulations.
Well, you know, we could go back to our history of Woodrow Wilson and Theodore Roosevelt. One argued for big government and small business. One argued for small government and big business. And we could have this go round and round. It's 2016, folks, and the doctors come in and said, we're an empire that is shot off the cliff. And we have global warming, endless wars, inequality, we have police officers shooting people and not going to jail.
Yes,
And
that was a
this is where people always say, okay, let's cut it off. But I'm saying, folks, this is how we're being lied to, because this is how it's getting played out.
Well, I would just say, with references to bozos, hookers, pimps, and drugs, I would watch your body camera. You have a question.
All right. So my question is really about your commitment to performing the job. Right now, we have a Supreme Court that has a still vacant spot because of party politics. And I want to know if you are willing to support a bill that would, I guess, enforce a time limit on such a situation so that we can stop using our party politics to obstruct our own government.
You're looking at me,
I'm
the recovering Democrat, who believes that the Supreme Court justice choice that was picked was a olive branch and was a sellout to the liberal and progressives. A man, help me out with his name, who has supported the type of campaign financing that the Democrats are purporting to end. No, I would not vote for him. I would find somebody who would actually go in there and do the job. The more important issue that is being played politics is the Trans-Pacific Partnership that sets up an ISDS, which is an international tribunal for the corporations, by the corporations, that has worse outcomes than whether or not we have a more conservative Supreme Court.
My question is not whether or not you would approve that particular person. It was more about the fact that they play party politics to refuse to do their job.
But they and I have 1 minute, so I'm going to use all 60 seconds. They use this is a charade that's being played out. That it's not one that's made up in the cloakroom where they come out and say, okay, you know, rock, paper, scissors, we're going to fight against this. It's just that we believe that the Supreme Court, which has been giving us, you know, when I talk to Democrats who are my friends who are voting for Hillary Clinton, they say, do you want overturn of same-sex marriage, abortion, women's rights, and voter supremacy, voter oppression, sorry. And those are really important issues, but so is what the TPP is going to take away. What I want is elected officials who are going to stop representing 80% of the time the corporations and then giving us something that we feel is, you know, a populist issue.
Well, to answer your question directly, President Obama has the constitutional authority to nominate, and U.S. Senate has its authority to not act, especially right before the presidential election. It happened before. My issue with this nominee, Garland, is that he's not very firm, big supporter of the Second Amendment and the transparent government. He was the justice involved in Oklahoma bombing. American public wanted to have more investigation, have more clear answers from government report. He closed the case. That was in the 90s. Then he does not have good record on Second Amendment, which is a dear issue to my heart. For 24 years of my life, I did not even have a right to touch a gun, to buy a gun, to defend myself, my families, if we were in dangerous situations. I will not support anybody, doesn't matter who the president nominates, if that person is going to infringe my and our American citizens' Second Amendment right. And without that right, we really can fall into hands of police state, tyranny government. We cannot defend our rights. The gun control laws, some have good intentions, keep guns out of criminals, out of the mentally ill. But actually, if you look at effectiveness, it's not there. It's not effective. It will only empower the government later to go to confiscate guns. I don't trust government is the only one who have legitimate all those weapons that we want to have, like our semi-automatic weapons, and or like they want to control your gun records. I don't trust government to have my records, not my kids, not me, not my privacy. Thank you.
I My question is for both Lily and Arn. I've noticed with the Affordable Care Act, some people like some parts about it, some people really don't like some parts about it. As a senator, what's one aspect you like, what's one aspect you don't like, and how would you vote if reforms come down the line?
Let me go ahead. I oppose Colorado Care. Disagree with Arn respectfully. I oppose Obamacare. I do not support centralized government controls this huge industry. When the government controls your health care, they control your life. I believe lots of people here are also pro-choice on abortion issues. Why can't you be pro-choice on health care issues? That's your body, that's your life too. The best way to reduce the cost is actually encourage free market competition. Have healthcare spending account before taxes, and encourage people, get rid of stupid laws. You have to buy Colorado insurance, healthcare insurance within state lines. Why can't I buy insurance like car insurance? I can shop around the country, get the best deal for my family, and best coverage, best deductibles, individualized plans for you and your family. When you have a government interference mandate, a healthcare one size fits all, it's horrible. When you don't have choices, you feel like a slave. I keep saying that. I was a slave before in China. I had a socialist medicine, one single payer system for 24 years of my life. It was a nightmare. If you have a political connected relationship, have cash, you go bribe doctors which you cannot sue, but they can take your money to put you on the surgery table first. I don't want that. Most Americans who are living paycheck to paycheck, but you want the bureaucrat to decide who's going to get the service first, or they're going to take your extra money under the table. It's going to be disaster. I would like to repeal it.
What's worked, I was in favor of it when it first got presented, but as a compromise, I wanted single payer health care. And I bought into the brawl that was occurring when Senator Bennett was coming to town halls that I was at and being screamed at, keep the government out of my Medicare, things like that. And so it got people who had pre-existing conditions health insurance. It got people who were under the age of 25 health insurance to be able to stay on their parents' health insurance. So those were, and I believe the number was somewhere around 45 million people who didn't have health insurance now have health insurance in America, which is pretty important, right? 350,000 people in Colorado don't have health insurance. 750,000 people in Colorado have inadequate health insurance, and that's 1 in 5 people in Colorado don't have adequate health insurance out of the 5.3 million people that live in Colorado. The Affordable Care Act, I believe, and many believe who are in the healthcare industry or were in the healthcare industry, believe that it was a payout to the healthcare industry. The healthcare industry has made out the most in Obamacare. And Aetna and Cigna, if I have this right, want to try to merge. And the way they merge is they're trying to pay off politicians. And Bayer is trying to buy Monsanto, right? This is where free market economies go. They go to monopoly. And so I believe that the only path we need to pass Amendment 69. We need to pass Colorado Care because it's the only place we could go next so that people who live in the Western Slope who have the most highest health care premiums in the country could bring the premiums down so that people could get health care, so that urgent care clinics aren't opening up on every street corner, so that the hospitals will gouge us more and more for our costs.
But our monopoly by government is just as bad as monopoly by private corporations.
That's
same
why
monopoly.
checks and balances.
No, same monopoly. We don't have choices there. You and I will suffer. Our children will suffer. Both monopolies are bad. Libertarians believe choices in everything. Everything.
But I'm not arguing for I'm saying we live in a corporate totalitarian system. You grew up in a totalitarian system.
So I know what's
choose. death by fire or death by drowning. I'm saying that people were bought into democracy and republic. We don't have democracy and republic because we have dumbed down ourselves over the last 40, 50 years. We are not taking on our role as a citizen. We are not educating ourselves as well as we've started to in the last year or two because of the democratization
down. You have
of
single
the
payer
internet,
system.
and we're able to say this is where we're being lied to and this is where we're going. So you have a system that's old world and one of China. I'm saying the systems that have been developed over the last 20, 30 years in Europe through are helping support them after World War II have been systems that have been working very well for whatever will be the next
Well, why
frontier
do the rich
for our
Europeans
society.
come to America to get specialized care
That's
with cash?
anecdotal.
Because they
That's
have money.
anecdotal.
But
That's
poor European people are stuck waiting in line.
That's
They don't have a
anecdotal.
choice.
Some of the most forward-thinking healthcare is coming out of Germany right now in certain areas that are now not allowed to be used.
Well,
here.
because of Switzerland had a socialist medicine, now they realize it's not working. They actually start to develop competition in healthcare now, so they offer more choices. So they learned their lesson. It's not sustainable when you have just socialist medicine. Now they're trying to combine, mix with actually market competition. And you want to go the opposite direction.
Look, I find it frustrating to use anecdotal evidence, so let me give some empirical evidence. America is the only country in the world that is a first world country where people are going bankrupt because the number one reason for bankruptcy is healthcare costs. That is not a first world country. That is not a country, so how would you fix that problem where people are going bankrupt? And that was what was going on before.
Get rid of stupid laws that only require you buy insurance within state lines.
But that was before.
No, they still have that. I cannot buy insurance in New York today.
So you think that if we have a free market system where you could buy health insurance anywhere in the country, it's going to drop, and everyone's going to be able to afford healthcare, and they're not going to go bankrupt.
No,
I just
well,
don't
try
see that
it.
point
See, you fear a free market is going to jack up the cost. I fear government monopoly is going to make us miserable. So, pick you choose. I have lived another side, Arn.
Right.
It just did not work. It was horrible. Trust me on that.
The two choices that you keep trying to say is China versus what's happening right now. And I'm not saying those are the only two choices.
I live in Hong Kong too. It was under British rule.
Right.
Choices, free market. It's the most free market economy in the world right now, better than U.S.
Some people will say in classrooms like this, democracy is not perfect, but it's the best government there is.
No,
so
democracy is not. Our country was founded on, as a constitutional republic. Democracy means mob rules. 60% people can vote to kill me, take my property away.
You believe that individuals are pure, and if left to their own devices, will create charities that help people.
That's what libertarians believe. Most people are good people. Yeah. If you create a system to incentivize them to work hard, better their own lives, they can handle it. We cannot insult people. We are the elites. We know how you should live your life. We know how you better use your money, how to educate your kids. You're always better than what I think I should do for myself. That's wrong. It's called an elitist attitude. Because that's what those people do in Washington. At the grassroots level, we should trust our fellow citizens. We should trust you run your life. We should trust you manage your money. We should trust you choose your own damn healthcare plan fit your needs. Instead of some bureaucrats tell me in Colorado, some bureaucrats not elected, they're angels, they're super beings. You guys should have one healthcare plan right now. And you only can say this doctor, this hospital. It's a nightmare. It's not gonna work. I will hate that. You'll be throwing me back to the old country I come from. I want to have choices. There's nothing wrong for citizens want to have choices in their lives.
I would just humbly submit that most of your training that you're referring to and most of your environment that you are referring to was in a very oppressive governmental system.
And we want to go back there.
And so you're thinking the grass is greener on the other side if we have this free market, utopian, capitalistic system. Many of us who are advocating for another alternative is saying that didn't work out too well.
Well,
That, we see how that gets played out enough times to saying that there is a hybrid system. This isn't the choice of a linear spectrum from communism over to total free market system. This is a balance, and it's a multi-dimensional balance, and it depends whether or not it's on local. It depends what type of industry. It depends what's happened with this, because markets are going to change, and the inventions are going to change. People are going to do something different, and so we can lighten up a little bit. Under Lily's example of government, Arn Menconi gets to drive as fast as he wants to drive, which I would love to drive as
you get
fast as I
arrested
want to
though,
drive.
if you go.
And I could go on the Autobahn wherever and whenever I want to drive. And somebody out there is going to think, no, Arn shouldn't be able to drive 200 miles an hour to get to every meeting he wants to go to. And there's going to be an argument that Arn's more qualified to drive at 200 miles an hour because he taught snowboarding and could ride at 40 miles through the trees and not kill himself. I mean, where does the conversation go? So I think we should wrap it up a little bit and say there's always going to be some regulation. There's always going to be some control in the systems. She's admitted to having certain controls and regulations.
Well, I believe in limited government, not
don't you
federal
need to get your other
government. Yeah,
question?
go ahead, Lisa.
I am here to ask you a question. It's never asked in any the time that I've ever been, watched any election. Is children that are in foster care or children that are in state care. Really never hear what are we going to do to improve these kids, because a lot of these children are being abused and neglected. Their rights are being violated in restraints or isolation. They're being exploited through this Obamacare, through the pharmaceutical companies making pharmaceutical kickbacks off of these children. We talked about corporation. There's massive corporations that have their hands in making sure these kids stay in state care, stay where they're at, be abused in that state care facility. And when they do speak out, they end up in juvenile correctional facilities. This is known. So my heart beats for these kids. I think our foster care kids would probably fill this auditorium if they were given the opportunity to know more about what's going on in the world and not be so dumbed down by these facilities and repressed and things such as this nature. So I would like to know individually what you would do, because I know that you would have a voice as a federal, you could sit in Congress and stop this absolute, they are exploiting these children for so much money. What would you do? How would you help these kids on a federal level, and then come back in the state? And maybe we need some punishment. I mean, I want to see some people being punished for what they're doing to these children, because a majority of these kids that the state is its budget's being balanced off of are disabled. They're taking these kids' Social Security and they're abusing them with their Social Security. I'm speaking out for the kids tonight. I never really hear that in any of the, but they are our future, and so they're important to me.
Well, it was one of the first questions that was asked in our first forum by the friend that you came in with up in Mesa County. And when I was a county commissioner, we had to find ways in order to help with the foster care system. That is something you're constantly doing. And when I had a chance to talk to her afterwards, I got confused because on the one hand, there was an assertion that government shouldn't be involved in helping children who were abandoned, abused, and neglected by their children, which is why I started a charity some 25 years ago for children like that and tried to find ways to help them. So in my heart, and that is what has been driving me for several decades, But you're telling me, on the one hand, my hands are tied because government is bad and shouldn't be helping them. And I'm saying, so is David Koch and Charles Koch supposed to come in and help them out? Or is some free market system voucher where we give it to someone else? Because in their heart, they're going to be good and they're not going to be motivated by money in order to corrupt that. And I would say that the system is going to have balances in it. We need to help the foster care children. We know that there's been problems in the foster care children systems in America, in Colorado, in Denver in the last decade, and there should be ways to fix that. And when you go in and try to fix those systems, when Governor Ritter put me on the Health and Regulation Board in order to cut the red tape, it becomes somewhat of a system. So I have a question to toss over to here. How does a free market system help foster care children without having some governmental input?
Well, if you really believe limited government, it is a role of government to protect life, liberty, and property.
But what is limited?
To protect
This
our
particular example.
children. Here is actually one of the roles that we say government can play. But the thing is though, the issue she brought up is our system right now, lack of just, transparent due process, remove children from homes without supposed to be the due process, and the parents are not giving, even their family members, grandparents are not giving the choice to take care of the children. There's a study show foster care kids from foster families, most foster families are good families, but the system sometimes gets abused. Also, just to remove those children from their own parents, even though there are problems with some parents, but to remove them from homes, they actually do poorly. You know what, 90% of foster care children after leave foster parents, they become criminals. They're back to the judicial system again. It's horrible. Their parents might have some issues, but don't you think they deserve due process to go through the law, that which is on the books, but nobody is really enforcing them? Then the system gets abused. The federal grant money follows the kid. So there's lots of money to be made when you remove a child from parents. Then the other treatment agencies, government organizations, private corporations, they all get their children's money, which is totally corrupt. In my eyes, there's a conflict of interest. So we need to protect those children. We need to look at the system to say if parents' rights are really protected. Is there a due process, transparent, clean process to actually protect the parents' rights and the children at the same time? So that's like a separate issue. It is a role of government, but how do you execute it? How do you protect children and family at the same time?
Okay, now you answered the question. Why don't you let the
Sir?
question?
Misunderstood me. I didn't mean that there, in some ways there is too, I guess what you were saying is that there's too much of government. Well, the government is the only one that is with the job to take care of these kids in a lot of ways. But what I was really wanting to know is, we were just talking about, there's several issues. We were talking about the police, you know, and we want to see accountability. There's several issues, but what we're not seeing for the children, and what I'm trying to speak up for, is when these kids are being hurt in these facilities, or they're dying in these facilities, or something has happened to them, or their health, they're being exploited with their health instead of bettered. Yeah.
Well, the people are
This is the same answer that I gave 2 months ago. I was a county commissioner for 8 years, and people sat in my office crying who worked in social services and begged us to take the children out of the parents' home, and that the head of the systems weren't allowing them to come out. Completely opposite experience for 8 years than what you're saying here. Okay? And I'm not saying you're telling me something that's not happening. Both are happening. Okay?
There's two sides of the story.
There is. And there are, so you have both of this going on. There's 63 counties in the state of Colorado, and the counties are in charge of what to do with foster care and the training and the incentive. So all I can say in the time that I'm allotted is I experienced for 8 years the antithesis of what you were experiencing and had to make some very difficult decisions in HR that led to bringing the system in place that didn't have enough judges that would bring the parents in the system in front of them in order to choose how and what could be done legally for the sake of the children.
All right.
Well, we've got about 4 minutes left till 9 o'clock. So does anybody have any one last question?
There's two more people there.
You guys, you haven't asked one yet.
No. I will say, it seems like both of you are against corporate money in government, which I think anyone should be for that. My question, I hate to kick a dead horse and go back to this, but the healthcare issue. I know Colorado on the ballot this year, I think it's Amendment 69. Read over some of that, and it'd be an increase to your taxes at 3.33%, I believe, and then your employer would cover the rest of it. And then also kind of adding to your 60% in the market out here in Denver, which is really because we're a city that everyone wants to come to. There's a lot of businesses, there's a lot of job opportunities, which is raising the cost out here. I do work in the housing market, and I know that a big part of that is there's a lack of housing, and they're building, and pretty soon out to the airport is going to be filled with houses. The apartment communities are actually going to be pretty close to having the need fit or filled for the people that need to have places to live, so the prices should go down soon. But as someone who owns a business, how and why would I ever want to invest my money in something when I'm going to be paying 60% taxes plus 7% taxes for people's health care? How does the free market increase competition so that prices will go down? And then everyone tries to attack the 1% about everything, but what a lot of people don't realize and think about is that it's not the government's money that's being risked and spent to create these businesses and create these jobs. It's not the government who's going to lose the money. It's those people. It's the people creating businesses that are starting businesses and creating jobs for people in the community. How do you, in your world and yours, how does that make people want to create businesses and create new jobs? It's certainly not the government.
I've run 2 businesses that I've started in my lifetime. One is a nonprofit, one is a for-profit. And in the nonprofit world, very much like the for-profit world, in order to hire good people, you want to give them health care. And Amendment 69 will reduce health care for 80% of the people in the state of Colorado. People who are not paying their employees health insurance, it will obviously go up because they haven't been doing that, what I would think you would need to do in order to have a quality workforce for yourself. The housing piece that you had talked about, I worked in real estate development, and the other company was owning a property management firm. The future for rentals in the state of Colorado is not going to equalize out because there's going to be more development, because developers are looking for the highest margin, and the highest margin is in the higher end property, not in the lower end property where it's 6% return on investment instead of 18% return on investment.
I feel your pain. I am a small business woman working from home. To me, Amendment 69 is 10% because I'm my own employee and employer. I'm blessed for that, but I have to pay whole 10%. This is going to put some small businessmen out of business. They already have so much cost. The Obamacare has already forced smaller business companies to hire people to 29 hours a week instead of full-time. Because if you hire full-time workers, they have to buy them insurance according to Obamacare. So thanks to that, my son working hours even got reduced, 29 hours per week. He could work 40 or 45, this young man, but his employer doesn't want to buy his health insurance. So as a result, he's on our family plan. Good intentions sometimes work, most time don't. If you use government regulation is a force. You have no choice but to comply. So you got to understand the nature of government. It's not like, okay, you can choose this, that. No. If you don't comply, you pay fine or you go to jail if you don't pay your taxes. What kind of choice is that? When you have a free market, as I said, we can form mutual aid society. We can allow people pool their labor pool together to negotiate good deals to even cover pre-existing conditions. And then we can buy insurance across the country, cross state lines. We can have a healthcare spending account. All those ought to be tried. Now they have private membership now, cash society. You pay cash, you can cut on your cost half. There are some libertarian organizations already offer cash healthcare. So there are lots of choices. But when you have a government mandate, government monopoly, it's nightmare. I think we are going to lose lots of people in Colorado. We're going to lose jobs. So thanks, and I feel you pay as small businessman.
You guys want to do
2 minute?
closings?
1 or 2 minute closing?
Yeah, and then we'll get.
Okay, go ahead. Let me drink some water.
So 2 minute closing.
Yeah.
We talked about a lot of different issues here. The issues that we're really faced with are global warming, endless war, inequality gap, and racial injustice. Because that's where the most amount of profit is for the global corporations. And that's why I jumped into this race, and we set this country up on a republic where you vote, and your vote matters. And that's not what we're living in right now. And we were set up in a country that a private citizen was elected in order to become a public citizen. I've become a public citizen. Michael Bennett is not a public citizen. Michael Bennett is a corporate-owned citizen representing corporations. Cory Gardner is a corporate citizen. Out of the 100 senators, they're all corporate citizens. Same with Congress. I'm not going to get into all of the other representative agencies. We need to get a private citizen who's a public citizen back in office, and the issues that I fight for, why I sit out in front of a jail where a CIA agent cannot even be seen by a doctor and has a heart condition and has had a heart attack, is because I've learned in just the last week that the system doesn't care if he dies. And that could be you, or that could be you, Jordan. Because if we're good people, which I hope we are, and our government was doing something bad, or our corporations were doing something bad, and we were a whistleblower, we would not be thrown aside. We would have some form of representation. And I am very serious about that, and that's why I sit in a jail. That's why I sit across from a jail. Because this is serious. Global warming is here, and it's going to affect us in the next 20, 30 years. Those topics are not being discussed, and I want to thank Lily for giving us the opportunity to work together to have these dialogues that are so critically important. And I want to thank Corey for doing this for us. And thank you for all coming.
Yes, thank you, Corey, for, this is like your second moderator's job, right? And he also has been really objective. The only actually objective reporter has been following our campaign tirelessly. And thank Arn, even we have some differences, but we show you how people with differences can work together, have mutual respect, even have a friendship. I think now I can call you friend, and I trust Arn. And even though I still tell him, big government sucks, Arn. so anyway, my libertarian belief and my life story in communist China really taught me how to really be cautious of big government. I can tell you, even though most people serving the government are good people, but when you have this kind of system, you are actually empower the government to grow and grow and grow. America, with the history I learned about America, is that before 1913, America went through industrial revolution. So many people become rich, and so many people got jobs. Lifespan increased, free market worked. People were happy, pursue their happiness. And you become the world's strongest economy, most prosperous country, and also free country because your Declaration of Independence a constitution brought me to this country. I came to a free country. I came here to achieve my American dreams, to have maximum freedom and prosperity. Let's not lose that. Let's work together at grassroots level. And let's not rely on government. Let's trust our citizens can be empowered to make best decisions for their own lives. Not I come in to dictate what you should do, how you should behave, what kind of health plan you should have, and what kind of college you should go. Let people make their individual choices and decisions. So thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate your support. It's okay.
We get sick of each other.
Well, you got to see how I fight with my husband, you know?
Well, when you have that body count, oh, yeah.